Welcome to the Kingman Unified School District Podcast, where we talk all things KUSD. I'm your host, Claire Whaley. The KUSD Podcast is a podcast for parents, students, staff, and the Greater Kingman Area. On this podcast, we're going to talk about upcoming events, school board meetings, things to see, and any news related to our schools. This episode, we're talking about the most recent COVID data, the March school board meeting, tax credit donations, and varsity sports. I also sat down with Stacy Mayo, the district's parent liaison for this month's Coffee Talk segment, toward the middle of the show, so stay tuned. We're going to start it off by talking a little bit about Governor Doug Ducey's most recent executive order. Governor Ducey issued an executive order last week to return schools to in-person teacher-led instruction. According to metrics developed by the CDC, 12 of Arizona's 15 counties are in phases where all schools are safe to open, including in the state's two largest counties, Maricopa and Pima. Quote, Arizona students need to be back in the classroom. More than half of Arizona's schools are open and offering in-person options. More schools need to follow their lead and pave the way for equitable education options for every Arizona student. The CDC and numerous health officials have said time and time again that schools are safe and kids can go back to the classroom. We prioritize teachers in our vaccine distribution, and many have already received their second dose. The science is clear. It's time all kids have the option to return to school so they can get back on track and we can close the achievement gap. End quote, said Governor Ducey. Under the order, schools are to return to in-person learning by March 15th or after their spring break. An exception is made for middle and high schools located in counties with high transmission of COVID-19, as defined by the CDC, which currently includes just 3 Arizona counties. However, CDC is clear that there is a safe pathway for all schools to open at any transmission level and to stay open if they implement proper mitigation strategies. A student may continue participating in virtual instruction if their parent or guardian chooses to do so. This executive order was one of many things mentioned at Tuesday's school board meeting. Superintendent Dr. Gretchen Dorner did give a public statement as her board report. Quote, this week marks the 1-year anniversary since our team learned that our schools would be closed temporarily due to COVID-19, end quote. They showed up was the rallying motto during her entire statement, which focused on the achievements and hard work of all staff, students, and families during this last calendar year. Quote, the only thing that remained constant was a lack of consistency, end quote. She said one consideration going forward should be focusing on gaining consistency. There is a need for some stability in schedules and workloads on all counts, for students and staff. In her address to the board, Dr. Dorner mentioned that attendance is currently an issue and poor attendance habits were formed during this last academic year. One of the issues is in secondary school attendance because a large number of our teens have joined the workforce since the pandemic began. Dr. Dorner also brought up concerns when it comes to testing, which will start immediately after spring break, as well as the ability to properly social distance and maintain the safety guidelines we have in place if we were to be in full on-campus instruction. She expressed her concern for what full on-campus learning would look like, as well as the concerns that several district administrators have had. Dorner closed her statement by saying that the district is committed to working with any staff member or family that needs help making it through this academic year. After a few sharp comments and brief discussion, the board voted in a 3-2 roll call vote to return to full on-campus learning Monday, March 22nd. That means all students are going to be back on campus after coming back from spring break. To close out the board meeting, our board graciously accepted several donations from the community. So, from all of us here at KUSD, thank you for your continued support. The KUSD COVID numbers have been updated going into spring. According to Dr. Dorner, KUSD cases have dropped significantly. There are only 3 active student cases and 0 staff cases. She did state that the number may be inaccurate due to the small amount of people who are being tested, but the decrease in case numbers on our campuses is still a thing to celebrate. It's worth noting here that the CDC has recently developed new metrics for schools to follow a reopening plan. The metrics define low, moderate, substantial, and high transmission levels with operational strategies for schools to reopen at all transmission levels. The Arizona Department of Health Services released the latest county-by-county information based on those CDC metrics. Mojave County was listed as substantial, the second highest metric. The social distancing and mask-wearing guidelines are still in effect, and they will continue when students are back in campus on March 22nd. There is improvement, so keep masking up and sticking to those safety guidelines. This is also the perfect time to remind all listeners listeners that masks are required at all KUSD buildings. Visitors are asked to abide by our safety standards. But enough about COVID for this month. We have exciting news coming out of the varsity sports world this week. Both Lee Williams soccer teams played in round 1 of the state championship tournament this week. The girls team played Tuesday and the boys team played Wednesday. In a 1-0 win over Seton Catholic, the Lady Vols head into the quarterfinals of the state championship. They will be playing Saturday, March 13th. If they win again Saturday, they play in the semifinals March 16th or 17th, and they could even make it on to the state finals March 20th. Congrats, ladies, and good luck. Lee Williams Wrestling will be heading to sectionals in Chino Valley on Saturday, March 13th. Any athletes that place there will move on to the state competition on March 18th. I was never really a cheerleader, but go Vols, go! Be sure to support these young athletes as they gear up for state competitions. Also, with the new season come the new sports. Lee Williams will have their usual spring sports with softball, baseball, girls tennis, boys tennis, and track. The Vols are also welcoming 3 new coaches this season. Girls tennis welcomes Jessica Aledo. Boys tennis introduces Matt Larson, and track will be headed by Steven Brown. Kingman High School sports are also underway with matches and games starting this week. The Bulldogs will have baseball, softball, boys and girls tennis, and track going into the spring season. It is important to note all athletes and staff and fans are to wear masks. That means they will be competing with a mask on. The AIA is going to be very strict with this. If these modifications are not followed, they will pull refs and there will be consequences for the hosting team. So please wear masks when supporting our local athletes. Lee Williams is allowing fans, however, last I knew, they were still being limited. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors will be allowed 2 guests, while seniors will be allowed 4. And then visiting athletes are also each allowed 2 guests. Kingman High School reported that they will also allow fans at their games as of March 9th. The biggest thing is for all listeners to remember that this information is subject to change as per instruction from the AIA. I will do my best to keep all fans and families and athletes informed, so keep an ear out for updates. Both high schools are also sending out updates as they learn the new information. We're switching it up a little this month, and we're going to do coffee talks now instead of at the end. This month, I sat down with the district's parent liaison, Stacy Mayo. So, Stacy Mayo, you are the parent liaison at the district office. So just tell us a little bit about what that is, because it is a relatively new position, and I don't think a lot of people know what you do.
Correct. It is new this year. So parent liaison, my role within the district is to be the bridge between parents and their school sites. So often you will have a situation where parents and teachers are not communicating well and they're having issues. So my job would be to come in and play the middleman or mediate the two and help them both understand the different points of view when it comes to what they're trying to accomplish on both sides in reference to what the best interest of their child is. I also serve a support role for students and parents when it comes to our COLA, the Kingman Online Learning Academy. Those that are struggling in the platform, who don't quite understand maybe how to download and upload the different documents and where they go when you download them, or they've locked themselves out of the platform, or parents don't know how to do the grade reports through the actual platform. And all of those things I'm here to assist them with. Any other thing that they're having difficulties with when it comes to their student and being in school. Could also be that maybe they're having a problem with another student and they don't feel like administration is dealing with that problem like they would like them to. So then they'll reach out to me again to be the middleman.
Yeah. You're the person that parents in the community go to when their students need help. Sort of.
Yes. Yeah. So typically we would have them go to the school first, whatever their home school is, and see if they can't resolve it through mediation, through the administrator, a meeting with the teacher, seeing their guidance counselor. There are several options available for them. But if in the end they feel that hasn't been successful for them, or they've already been down that road and they don't want to go that route again, then I am an alternative for them.
Perfect. And then moving a little bit from that, go ahead and give us the elevator speech about yourself. So now that you told us what you do for KUSD, what do you do when you aren't being the KUSD parent liaison?
So I'm a mom of 3 kids. My oldest is in the United States Air Force. She's an OSI agent. My middle child is an entrepreneur starting his own business, doing Euro mounts for hunting. Our family hunts a lot, and he also guides. And then my youngest one is a freshman in high school.
Ooh.
I enjoy going to the gym, driving the Can-Am, and just spending quality time with family.
Sweet. And how long then have you worked with the district?
As a full-time employee, this March will be a year. I did contract with the district as a discipline hearing officer prior to that for about 5 months. But full-time, it'll be a year next month.
Nice. And kind of going off of that then, what was the hardest part about transitioning from that officer relationship into being kind of more of the, I don't want to call it administrative necessarily, but it's a very different role, I feel.
It is a very different role. So in the position that I was for 25 years as a police officer, 20 of those years I was a school resource officer within the schools, and the majority of them I did work with KUSD. So not always when you're calling and speaking with parents in reference to their kids in that role, was it good information that you were sharing. Oftentimes it was you had a conversation with their child, or they had made some poor choices and you needed the parent to come down to the office so that you could have uncomfortable conversation about life lessons. In this role, while I still get that a little bit as the discipline hearing officer, I also get the opportunity to give them the chance to continue their education in a different setting versus the traditional setting because they've made poor choices, where I didn't necessarily have that as an SRO, as a police officer. But the parent liaison, typically when parents call me, they're frustrated, they're upset, they're looking for help. They've been passed around to numerous other employees who maybe didn't quite know how to help them, so they thought they were helping them and they were transferred and nobody answered. So when they come to me, even if I'm not able to answer them right then, I will find whatever the answer is and then call them back. I don't transfer them anywhere else. I'm the end point. So when they leave with me, the majority of them are always happy. I didn't always see that on the other side. So it's nice to see that gratification of being able to help somebody in whatever their frustration is versus the other.
Yeah. And do you still do the occasional officer voice with people? I know you have one. I've heard it.
I do. I will say there's been a couple discipline hearings where somebody maybe has gotten a little out of line or a little out of hand, and you just rein them back in. It's more just using your people skills and tone of voice for corrective action. But I think after you do that for 25 years, it doesn't ever go away. My kids can attest to that.
I wasn't gonna ask, but I assumed.
Yes. Yep, they can attest to that as well. So it's nice though. I still dabble a little with stuff from the police department. I do their backgrounds on police officers, certified police officers.
Oh, cool.
So, and I still do forensic interviews on children who are victims of sexual and physical abuse. So it's a nice, well-rounded blend of everything.
Yeah, sounds like. And so what has been kind of your favorite part? You mentioned a little bit of that gratification, having a different viewpoint, but what has been kind of your favorite part about what it is you do now?
I think it's the making people happy, letting them know that when they get to me and they're frustrated and they've been to several others who didn't know the answer, that when they leave me, I've given the answer to them immediately upon that conversation, or I found the answer out and either called or emailed them back. For me in this role, communication is huge. People want to know what's going on. They want to be informed. They want to know they're making the best choice for their child. And that comes from communication and us as a district communicating with them. So I truly think that communication is 100% solid on how you make them happy and satisfied.
Yeah. And do you have kind of a unique moment that you really remember? Like when you first started, something that you were like, what?
Yeah, and again, I think it was the first person that probably called me on the phone and didn't understand what they were supposed to be doing. And again, because I worked as an SRO in the schools for 20 years, knowing synergy and all of those advantages that I wouldn't have had I not had that experience have really been an asset in this position, to be able to search things that I know how to search and find and reset, parent view or set it up for them, or people that are not computer friendly. And I have the 2 parent computers out here at district office that they can come and actually enroll their kids, or, they can bring their documents and I can scan them for them and email them right there. So when they leave here, they're done. Like their child's enrolled, ready to go. And we did it all in one setting. So that feeling of helping somebody and them feeling accomplished and done when they're walking out the door is nice.
So now we're going to move to some fun questions. So these are from various students around the district, and you can be as long-winded or as short as you want about them.
Okay.
But if I have follow-ups, I will ask them. So we're going to start off with, what is your favorite sport?
So I don't know that I really have a favorite sport. I would say my favorite sport would be anything I was watching my kids participate in. So I want son that played football. My daughter played softball, baseball. My youngest is track. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is that they're engaging in, that would be my favorite sport.
Yeah. Do you ever watch, like, NFL or NBA, or is it just like, I'm going to devote all my sports energy to my children?
So NFL is on the TV when it's NFL season. I'm not a basketball fan, but football is on. And I don't dislike it, but it wouldn't be probably my top pick to turn on and watch. I'd probably be watching, like, HGTV or Flip or Flop, something like that. Yeah.
Something non-sportsy.
Yes.
All right. And so what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Butter pecan.
Wow, that was like on it.
Yep. Don't have it very often. I don't know. Something about it. I love it.
It's like one of your guilty pleasures?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There you go. And do you have a favorite book?
I think any books that help you better yourself. Mm-hmm. I am not typically somebody who wants to sit down and read a book. I'm more of a magazine kind of person or reading articles on the internet. But to sit down and read just a book cover to cover, that's not typically me.
Yeah. Do you ever listen to audiobooks, or is it more of a... Are you listening to one right now?
I am not. Mm-hmm. I haven't been in the car much because we're on lockdown because of the pandemic.
Yeah, that's fair.
But when we drove to Colorado Springs, podcasts or true crime podcasts when we're on the way, we listened to those.
Mm-hmm. So I have always loved mystery novels and books like that. So coming from a police officer who has seen that kind of stuff, is it weird listening to that and being like, okay, anytime, or you listening to true crime differently because of you're an officer?
I think you listen to it differently, and you more so listen to the facts versus the fluff they throw in there that isn't really what happens when you're at a crime scene. Mm-hmm. But they're still fun to figure out, and it's not just you singing to the radio, it's actually having to use your brain while you're driving down the road. So they're interesting, just like any crime shows, SVU, we watch those, Law and Order, we watch those. You'll see somebody interviewing somebody, and as an interviewer, you're looking at it and you're like, what are you doing? Okay, I can't take it anymore.
All right.
Yeah, it's just, and that just comes from 25 years of doing it. So
right.
But there are times, but mostly it's just fun entertainment.
Yeah, fun entertainment. Has there ever been an episode that sticks out to you the most, where you're just like, okay, you're gonna get so sued? We
just watched one this weekend. It was was it a Law and Order or a forensic one? And it was a female who had been sexually assaulted, and everybody is interviewing her repeatedly over and over and over again, asking the same questions, and ultimately ended up not believing her because she had been interviewed so many times that little details change. That for me, I had to turn it off because I was very frustrated with the detective and how he was treating her. And not that there aren't incidents that happen where people are false reporting or things that come across appear to be inaccurate, but if you think back to the last time somebody asked you 4 or 5 times to recall something that occurred to you that was traumatic, did you repeat it the same time every single time? No, that's not human nature.
Yeah. Well, and somebody asks you what you had for breakfast 5 times in a row, you'll forget eventually.
Well, it all depends on how they're asking you.
Yeah, that's
Did they spoon feed you? Did they give you the answers? Did you have oatmeal, French toast, or waffles for breakfast? Or do they say, walk me through your day? What's the very first thing you did when you got up this morning? Mm-hmm. So it all depends on how the person's asking those questions as to the answers you're going to get. So if you have 5 different people asking questions, even though they're looking for the same answer, how it's asked will get different answers.
Yeah, that's true. It's very fair. All right. So another fun one. What's your favorite animal and why?
We have 3 dogs. They are all Australian Shepherds. We have 2 standards, and then we have 1 mini, and they are just loving, and they think they're lap dogs. They're great. They play all the time. They're good with one another. We take them to the dog park. They're just nice companions.
So even not only does the mini think it's a lap dog, but the other 2 as well.
Yes, the 2 standards, they're about 70 pounds each, and yes, they both think they're lap dogs.
Yes. You're sitting there watching your shows, and then all of a sudden, dog.
Yep, on the couch. And if one's on you, the other one's like, hey, you can't give all the attention to him. I need some attention. So then you have one on each side.
Yeah.
So yes.
And about how big is the mini? Is it like corgi size?
Yeah, she's about 25 pounds.
Mm.
So yeah, she's a little less than, she's about a quarter or maybe a fourth of what the other two are.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I assume she keeps up just fine.
Oh yeah, she actually, so she is, she jumps our wall. We have a 6-foot wall.
Oh my goodness.
So she's a primarily indoor dog. They have a doggy door. They come and go when they want.
Mm-hmm.
But the two standards, they would play fetch all day long if you let them.
Mm-hmm.
But our little female, the mini, doesn't really like to be outside. She wants to be in my son's room. That's like his sidekick. That's where she's at all the time. So if you lock her outside because you're like mopping the floors or vacuuming, doing something that you don't want her tracking across it, she'll jump our 6-foot wall. And then if the garage is open, she'll go around to the front of the house, come into the garage, and our garage door opens in, and she'll pull the handle down and let herself back in the house. Yeah, she's very smart. Too smart for her own good.
Yeah, I have a cat, also very too smart for his own good. We don't have the pull handles anymore. We have knobs, but he still like paws at it, and we're like, oh no.
Right?
Pulling open cupboards, and you're just like,
yeah, it's crazy how smart they are when they figure something out.
And then there's no stopping them. They'll watch you do something, and they'll be like, I'm going to get my treats on my own next time.
Yeah, right? Yeah, our cabinet where we have our treats actually locks in, or they would be in there, because they're over there all the time trying to smell it, but yeah.
So this is going to be kind of a twofold question.
Okay.
What is your favorite food? And then off of that, what do you like to eat for dinner?
So my favorite food is probably crab legs.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love crab legs. I will be happy when the river opens back up their buffet so you can go have the all-you-can-eat crab legs. And dinner for us is typically a meat of some sort. And like I said earlier, I hunt, so we have plenty of elk. So either elk or chicken, javelina, deer, something, and then a vegetable or a salad. Yeah. So here lately it's been cauliflower tater tots.
Ooh.
Yeah, those are really yummy. We are addicted to those. And they come out much crunchier in the air fryer than they do in the oven. Yeah, so those, or what else do we have? You have cauliflower mash. We'll take broccoli and baste it in olive oil and then put seasoning on it and put it in the oven at 400 for 20. Yeah, so they're kind of crunchy, but they have the seasoning flavor, so those are really good as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Piggybacking off of that hunting idea, is it like you go every season? Do all of you go? Is it like a couple of you?
So me and my older two children are hunters. My youngest, he hunts on the Xbox.
Yeah.
And my husband, we've taken him hunting a couple times and have to wake him up to open the gate. Just not his thing. So my youngest hangs out with my husband, and then me and the older two typically go hunting a lot. I think it's just because we were raised with that, and that's what we like to do. My husband was not raised with that. They went to the grocery store. He's from Spain and Puerto Rico, so just not something that they do in those areas. Yeah. But he eats everything, so that's a good thing. And my youngest, who hunts on the Xbox, eats everything as well. So I'm okay going and harvesting it and letting them eat it.
Yeah. And is there like one in particular, one hunting season you enjoy the most? Is there one thing that you're always like, yes, I can't wait for this year?
So in Arizona, you have to put in to be drawn to hunt. And then once you get drawn, then you go hunt during your scheduled or allotted time. Elk is my favorite, and then deer would be a close second.
Yeah.
I like the flavor of elk better than I do deer. I don't dislike deer, but if I could pick between the two, it's definitely elk.
Yeah. And do you do your own like preparing for it? So like you grind it if you're making burger, or do you have other people?
So we have in the past. Clayton's dad is a meat manager at Bashas', and he does butchering for us. So he has done it. My last one that I just got this last season in October of 20, it was in Unit 10. So that was in Flag, so we already were in Flagstaff, so it's easier to just drop it off to them and let them take care of it.
Right.
We pay a little more for it, but it's well worth the time, because you don't realize how much it costs or how much time you spend deboning something and cutting it all up and then running through the grinder and then using the sealer and package them and market them all. It's very time consuming.
Yeah. So do you guys often, do you buy beef, or do you tend to lean more towards the game that you bring in?
We do. Occasionally we'll buy beef. or I'll have a craving for a ribeye and we'll have a ribeye. But primarily we just eat game or chicken. We'll have chicken to change things up. Or I'll buy ground chicken because the elk is very lean. So I'll buy ground pork or ground chicken and toss it. If I'm making spaghetti, then I'll toss it in with that just to give it a little bit of fat content and just a different flavor. But primarily we're just eating game meat.
Yeah. That's like one of the things I miss the most about living in Idaho is my brother hunted all the time, and so we always had venison. Like we never bought beef if we had like venison in the freezer. So it's like I miss that gamey taste. So it's very interesting. I'm like, I guess I could like buy it.
Bring you a package of venison.
Well, no, there was this little place they used to make Elk Burgers, and so you get like different kinds of obviously like seasonal toppings and stuff on them, but. To die for. Twin Falls, Idaho. So next time you go to Kona.
Yeah, right.
They have they also have bison burger.
Oh, so when my daughter, who's in the Air Force, when she first got out of tech school and then was, her first duty base was North Dakota. So we took a road trip from Arizona and drove to North Dakota and stopped in Big Sky, Montana, and they had the ski lodge there. They had bison burgers. Oh my God, it was the best burger I've had in my entire life. Like I drive back there just to have that burger. It was awesome.
Yeah, I know.
It was cooked perfectly. It was awesome.
I don't even know how to describe like the taste. It's like one of those things where you just like, you have to have it. Like you have to try it at least once in your life because you will never want like a normal beef burger again.
No, it is definitely amazing. 100% agree.
Yeah. If you could go anywhere, money and the pandemic not being an issue, let's live in a hypothetical world here for a second.
Okay.
If you could go anywhere, where would you visit and why?
So I have traveled to Europe with my best friend and not to my husband. He stayed here and allowed me to go, and he stayed with our youngest because of school and stuff, and it was during school season. So I would love to go back to Europe with my husband once my oldest graduates and just travel through Europe.
Yeah. Is there like anywhere in particular, or just like kind of land with a backpack and go?
Paris, Rome. Yeah, I mean England, all of those right around there.
Yeah.
All the historical things. Again, once they're all open and we're not wearing masks and the world is back to
some new
us
normal.
being able to live. Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So the last question. This is one of my favorite ones to ask because I always get completely random answers. What is your favorite color and why?
So red is my favorite color. A deep dark red, because for me it symbolizes being bold and confident.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. That's a really good answer. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miss Mayo. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Last month, we began our new mini-series of KUSD history. We started talking about the Palo Christi Nature Trail and giving an overarching summary of said trail. Now, we're going to start diving a little bit deeper into the trail and largely go decade by decade. Today, I'm going to go through the rest of the 1970s and some of the 1980s. The 1970s was the beginning of the Palo Christi Nature Trail. It opened around 1972 and was Arizona's first outdoor classroom. The student-led project was super popular well into the 1990s, and it was the students that truly took conservation to heart. In a feature article written October 1980, they discuss how a third grade class wanted to expand their learning of Native American culture. Thus, they built the second trail with native petroglyphs and pictographs on rocks and cliff walls in order to further their study of Native American tribes. During that project, they also built a replica of Montezuma's castle in a cave they discovered near the top of the hill. Palo Christi science teacher Sharon Hackley said users of the trail expanded it from a science project into other areas. The Big Sandy Soil Conservation District donated and helped expand a third trail that focused on geology, biology, and archaeology. Two other trails were also developed that were called the Primary and Wilderness Trails. The Primary Trail was a shorter version of the original Palo Christi Nature Trail and was made for young children. While the original trail took 45 minutes to tour, the Primary took 30. The Wilderness Trail went all the way up the hillside and was basically undeveloped. It was largely used by PE classes. And lastly, in 1980, a sixth trail was being developed by a fifth grade class. It was the Saguaro Trail, designed for use by handicapped, elderly, or other people who would have difficulty walking along the other paths. This network of trails was a massive community effort. It was a very popular attraction in the 70s and 80s with visitors from other cities and schools, and even busloads of tourists would travel those paths. Sharon Hackley told the Miner, quote, "It's no longer my project. This entire project was only funded with grants and donations. It wasn't costing the school anything except, quote, sore muscles when we get our picks and shovels out," end quote, said Hackley. Teachers in all schools, elementary, secondary, college, and community school, used the trail for their classes. Music teachers frequently took their classes to the nature trail to sing outside. Art teachers used the natural scenery as subject matter. They even taught an outdoor cooking class, which resulted in a recipe book containing 150 recipes, many of which used plants found along the trail as main ingredients. In a later letter to the community, Hackley said, quote, "You don't have to spend lots of money to learn. Learning is all around you if you use it," end quote. Next month, we'll talk about the 1990s and do a summary of all the awards the Nature Trail won before we transition into a quasi-biography about the amazing science teacher Sharon Hackley. All right, one more business thing, and then I'll get into a few noteworthy dates for this month. It's March, which means I have to talk about taxes again. Don't worry, this is the last time I'll need to mention it before tax day. Arizona tax law allows taxpayers a tax credit of up to $200 or $400 per married couple if they contribute to extracurricular activities such as sports, band, yearbook, and the fine arts. These programs depend primarily on fees from students and from the generosity of community members like you lovely listeners. Donations can go directly to the club or program of your choice, or you can allow the school to decide where students need it the most. Either way, you get a dollar-for-dollar credit on your state taxes, and students have the opportunity for a more well-rounded education. It's really a win-win. If you are interested in making an Arizona tax credit donation, you can donate online or by taking the completed donation form to any KUSD school or the KUSD district office. For more information and taxpayer resources concerning Arizona's tax credit donation program, you can visit the Arizona Department of Revenue page or check out the series of videos that we have linked on our own website that go into more detail on where your money goes. Thank you in advance for your continued support in your local public education system, and I promise I will not talk about it again before tax day. Now, we have a couple of dates to mention. First and foremost, quarter 3 ended Thursday, March 11th. This is perfect as March 15th through 18th is spring break, so all quarter work should be done in time to take a nice breather. Quarter 3 report cards are scheduled to go home Monday, March 22nd through Thursday, March 25th. That also means quarter 4 begins March 22nd. And we're almost finished with the 2020-2021 school year. We are halfway through the second half. We can make it. Listeners, take spring break to rest up and recharge, and we can really hit the ground running going into that final stretch. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for listening to this episode of the KUSD podcast. To get even more news and information, check out our website at www.kusd.org. We are Kingman Unified. Talk to you next time.